I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I am a 6-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have my July TBR for you, and July is one of the best times of the year here on BookTube because it is Jane Austen July, where we devote the entire month to Jane Austen. This event is hosted by Katie from Books and Things, Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia from Spinster's Library. And thank you so much to the three of them. I love all three of you, and I love this event, and I have fun participating in it every time. So, I have books for all of the challenges. I also have 2 books that are not for Jane Austen July, and we're going to talk about those first. So, let's jump in. The first of the 2 books not for Jane Austen July is actually my Fairy Tale Friday read for July, and this is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is a retelling of the fairy tale The Six Swans or The Wild Swans, depending on whose variation you're looking at. The story is that a girl's brothers get transformed into swans. Here they get transformed into cranes, and our main character is named Shiori. And it sounds like it's pretty much following the story as it goes. Apparently there are elements of the fairy tale The Goose Girl in here as well, according to one of my friends over on Tumblr. So I'm really interested to read this. This will only be the 3rd retelling of The Six Swans that I've read. So I'm excited and I'm hoping it'll be good. The second non-Jane Austen July read is for my dissertation. This is The Doctor's Wife by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. This has come up on a few TBRs, and I think it's time to finally, read it. Because I'm writing a dissertation chapter on it, and I still haven't read it, so yeah, we should do that. This is kind of Mary Elizabeth Braddon's almost retelling of Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, which is really interesting to me. And I have a friend who loves this book, so I'm expecting to really enjoy it. I'm also really hope I enjoy it because I'm gonna be working with it for a while. But yeah, it's time to read this one. And now we get into the Jane Austen July books. So the first challenge is to read one of Jane Austen's 6 main novels. And for this, I am reading Pride and Prejudice. So I realized, as I was thinking one day, probably last year, about Jane Austen July and what I wanted to read for it, I don't think I've reread Pride and Prejudice since my senior year of high school. And I'm like, no, that can't possibly be. I must have read it in college. But if I did, it was before 2014, which is when I started keeping track on Goodreads. And it's not on my Goodreads. So either I reread it very early on in college, or I just straight have not read it since high school. I'm like, what? How? Because I know I read it when I was 14 for the first time, and then I read it my senior year of high school for class. And I'm like, was that really the last time I reread it? Okay. Let's reread this as a real adult now. Yikes. So yeah, I'm like, okay, it's a good time to reread Pride and Prejudice. I love Pride and Prejudice. I mean, I think all Jane Austen fans love Pride and Prejudice. And I think one of the reasons I haven't reread it is because I've watched the movie so often that it's just kind of always in my head, so I don't feel the need to reread it. But there's so much that the movie doesn't have it, so yeah, I'm rereading it, and I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy it very, very much. The second of the challenges is to read something by Jane Austen other than her main 6 novels. And for this, I'm going to read her, I don't know if it's really considered a novel, a novella, a short story. She wrote it when she was young. This is Love and Friendship. And I have it in a copy of her juvenilia called Volume the Second, edited by B.C. Southam. I wanted to read this last year and I didn't. So this book was bought for me by my father at like a really nice antique bookstore in Boston. Like, this is not super old or anything. It's from like the 60s or something. But the pages were uncut. So like some of them were still attached at the tops and on the sides. And I was really nervous about cutting them because I'm like, I don't do that. What do I look like? What is this, the 19th century? But so last year I attempted to cut the pages in order to read it, and the results were very bad in some places. Pages are ripped. Oh, is that really the worst? I thought they were way worse ones, but yeah, this is pretty bad. Like look at this, jagged edges. Because on the internet, people were like, don't use scissors, use like a stiff piece of paper. So I was like, okay, an index card? No. So obviously after like 2 attempts on that and it going horribly wrong, I was like, I'm just putting it back on the shelf and I'm not gonna touch it ever again. This year I was like, I really wanna read it. I have it in this book. I have it in an anthology as well, but I'm like, I don't wanna hold an anthology when I'm reading for fun. So it's like, okay, Elizabeth, just get a pair of scissors and do it. And so I did. And it was one of the most tedious things of my life. It's like do-it-yourself deckled edges, which I don't even really like deckled edges that much when the publisher does it for me. I definitely do not want do-it-yourself deckled edges. But it's fine. It's fine. It's all done. Gonna drop it. I have done all of them now. So I can read this whenever I would like. And is it pretty? Not really, but it's done. And I will be reading Love and Friendship, finally. So the group read for this challenge is to read Jane Austen's unfinished works, Sanditon and the Watsons. And I might jump in on this because it's been a very long time since I read those. Not as long as for Pride and Prejudice, though. If I do this, I think I would also want to read Lady Susan because I have all 3 in a bind up, and then I can just, call the whole thing read, and it makes my Goodreads easier. So I don't know if I'm gonna get to this. We'll see how much time I end up having. The next challenge is to read a nonfiction book about Jane Austen or her time. And for this, I am going to read Jane Austen, A Life by Claire Tomalin. I've been wanting to read this biography for a while. I've owned it for a really long time. And so it's just time to do it. I wanted to read it last year. I ended up reading a memoir of Jane Austen by James Edward Austen Lee instead. So I want to get to this finally. The 4th challenge is to read a retelling of a Jane Austen book or a work of historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. And so I'm going with the second part of that, a work of historical fiction set during the time period. And actually it features Jane Austen as a character. This was highly recommended by Katie from Books and Things. It is Godmersham Park, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So this is about a woman named Anne Sharp, who is the governess to Jane Austen's niece, Fanny Austen. So Jane Austen is a character. It sounds like it kind of has some elements of Mansfield Park in it, so I'm very interested to read it. My library has a copy, I just have to go over and get it. So I'm excited for this because I trust Katie's recommendations because she's never steered me wrong before. Number 5 is to read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen's. And here's another book that's been on so many TBRs. This is The Wild Irish Girl by Sydney Owenson, Lady Morgan. I borrowed this from my friend over a year ago. And I really need to read it and give it back to her. Yeah. I've read something by Owenson before. It was The Missionary. It wasn't my favorite. This is going to be much more my speed. It is about a guy named Horatio who is sent by his father to their estate in Ireland, and he meets the wild Irish girl of the title, whose name is something ridiculous, Glorvina, and she is the daughter of a deposed Irish king. So I'm really excited for this one. I've started it and really liked it and then just like wasn't in the right mood or didn't have time. I've done that like multiple times. So it's time to just read this and give it back to its owner, because I'm sure Michaela would like her books back. I have a few of Michaela's books that I've had for way too long. Oops. So yeah, this is happening this month. It is. That is all of the books. However, there are two watching challenges for Jane Austen July. And the first is to watch a direct adaptation of a Jane Austen book. And for this, I would really like, if I can get my husband to agree to it, that is the question. But I would really like to watch the 2007 TV film of Northanger Abbey. I am not sure if I've seen this before. I've either seen it and don't really remember it, seen part of it and still don't really remember it, or my mom watched it and I just remember her watching it and I didn't watch it with her. I'm not sure which. So there was PBS Masterpiece Theater did like a whole Jane Austen, like they had an adaptation of every single book for like a few months, I think. So this was part of that. I know I watched quite a few of them. I just don't know if I watched this one. And if I did, I don't remember it. So I would really like to watch this. I got it for my birthday or Christmas a few years ago, maybe. So I'm hoping that I can convince my husband. I never know what he'll like and what he won't like. Like, he liked Middlemarch. He wasn't super big on Pride and Prejudice though, so I don't know. We'll see. And then the second watch challenge is to watch a modern film adaptation of a Jane Austen work. And for this, I am going to rewatch at least some, maybe not all, of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is a YouTube series that apparently came out like 10 years ago now, and I hate that because I remember watching it when it originally was being released. It's fine. I really enjoyed this. It was so much fun. And just like a really good modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice. So I would love to rewatch it again. And also the episodes are super quick, so I can watch them during my breaks from writing my dissertation. I use the Pomodoro method, so I write for 25 minutes or like do a task. Sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's reading, whatever. And then I have a 5-minute break, so I can watch an episode of this in those 5 minutes because they're very short. So that'll be nice. I don't know if I'll watch all of it. We'll see. There's a lot of episodes, but like I said, they're short, so we'll see what happens. That is my TBR for July. Let me know down in the comments below. Have you read any of these? Are you participating in Jane Austen July? What are you reading or watching for it? If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.